So I'm sure many of you have heard about the new game BODYCAM. I've been trying it out. I've dumped about 10 hours into it, and I'm enjoying it. I think it's a fun time. That being said, just a few thoughts on it. The one that really sticks out to me is the sights. The red dot sights, they're all fine. They all work perfectly fine. It's just that the holographic sight doesn't. If you're in a super bright area, if you use the flashlight and it's too close, then you just cannot see the holographic sight. It just vanishes. And there's also some sort of weird grain effect that when you're looking down long corridors can affect how the holographic works. And that's just not realistically how that works. The holographics are self-lit, so it doesn't matter what's going on unless it is insanely super bright. But even then, you should still be able to see it in some regard. I've tried messing around with different settings to make it not happen, make that grain not affect the holographic sight, but I haven't been able to find any setting that would correlate or fix that anyway. One of the other things that I like is the drones. Now, drones in video games, especially tactical shooters, is not a new concept. I just like how they use the drones in this game. I think instead of having them as a pre-round thing, having them after you die is fun. It's a bit more interesting because you can fly around and tell your teammates where the enemies are, which I think is really cool because you can still use the proxy chat while you're dead through the drone. And so what people have been doing is they get behind enemies and start flashing their flashlight behind the enemies just to fuck up the enemies, and so that their friends will know exactly where the enemies are. Or alternatively, people will go over to their buddies and tell them exactly where the enemies are and try and lead them there. So it works out. It's pretty interesting, no matter how you do it. The third thing and final thing that I really have any thoughts on is that the voice chat, even when maxed out, is very quiet, even when standing right next to someone. So there have been multiple times where I'll stand right next to a teammate and he's speaking. I don't have any music or anything playing. I'm just purely listening to game sound, and I cannot hear them at all unless they are like yelling. Even though the developers have put warnings about mic threshold and stuff like that, I think people just don't realize what it is and don't realize how to work it. So I think either removing that or making it not nearly as bad might help, or just boosting voice chat at a base level would probably help. So those three things are really the only things that I currently have to say, either good or bad. And overall, I think it's a fun time. I think it's a fun experience. I think it could definitely get repetitive, but they were already talking about adding more maps and more guns. I think a gun game mode would be cool. I don't think that would ruin the gritty, realistic shooter aspect of it, because you already change guns when you die, so I'm sure they could find a way to do it. You definitely need a higher-end computer to run something like this. They even warn you about that. For instance, I have a 3070 Ti, a i9 12th gen, and 32 gigabytes of RAM. I can run this 60 to 100 frames, everything maxed out. Generally, it's just around 80 to 100. It would really just depend. I've seen people talking about getting lower FPS with higher specs. It's really finicky, it seems like. So hopefully that is something that they can kind of clean up in the future. That being said, this was made by two young guys, like guys a couple years younger than me. And it's in early access. And it's this good, it's playable, it's enjoyable. More so, people need to take it for what it is and quit complaining about it like it's some AAA made game. This was just two guys in Unreal Engine 5. So for what it is and for where it is in early access, I think it's a fun time. I think it's new and different. I enjoy it. And I think if you've got the computer that has the power for it, I think you should try it out too. Anyways, enough for me.